From the darkest depths of shame to the boundless grace of redemption, so far in this journey, you have been tuned in to a series I'm calling Shackled by Shame. I'm so excited for you to be on this channel. We are going to continue the journey. We're going to continue to talk about how shame has been a transformative journey for myself, so we can get to a place where we have healthy shame and get rid of unhealthy shame. So that's what this series is all about. I'm so excited to share my story with you and continue on the journey of how we can release those shackles and turn them into pebbles of transformation, renewal, and no longer being shackled by something that has been keeping us bound and not being able to move forward in our spiritual journey. So you are now locked in to Shackled by Shame, and you are plugged in with Candace on Candace to the Core. All right, y'all, so welcome back to my channel. This is exciting because we have reached the end of a series that I titled Shackled by Shame. And let's call it, I am so excited about the landing of this series for Shackled by Shame. And who knows, the plane might take off again, but I'm praying to God that we are getting to a place of evolving and growing. And I hope that you are learning something at least. So in this video, I found that I would be remiss if I talked about shame and didn't give you tools to then get the freedom that you deserve. So one of the tools is being vulnerable, right? So we're being vulnerable in this shame series. Another tool is admitting it, right? You're admitting the fact that you were stuck, or maybe you were shackled, or you felt that you couldn't progress because of these shameful thoughts that you had. Maybe you were telling yourself you're a bad person, and now there are more tools so we can better understand how shame has impacted us psychologically and how we can move forward from to a journey of true freedom. So I am going to give you some data points from research that I pulled, and this is from June Tangi of George Mason University, and she has studied shame for decades, and she found that people who have the propensity for feeling shame, a trait termed shame proneness, often have low self-esteem, which means conversely that a certain degree of self-esteem may protect us from excessive feelings of shame. So shame impacts us in a lot of ways. We notice that, but it also impacts our self-esteem, which is probably why most of us, or some of us, felt stuck in our journey, especially our spiritual journey, and then also, in essence, stuck in life. So she found that shame proneness can also increase one's risk for other psychological problems. The link with depression and anxiety is particularly strong. For instance, one large-scale meta-analysis in which researchers examined 108 studies involving more than 22,000 subjects shown a clear connection. I've been studying anxiety specifically because I have been not only shame prone, but I have suffered from anxiety. And I always wondered what, it could have been in my diet. It could have been in my environment. It could have been, thinking too much forward thinking. I'm always thinking about the next move or what's happening around me. There was triggers for my anxiety. And I don't even like to call it my anxiety. There was triggers for the anxiety. And I did not ever think to link shame to anxiety as well. And that was like a huge aha moment. I did have spouts of like depression as well, especially in 2023, where I was overly thinking about shame in the things that I've done and the things that I continue to do, especially being a woman of God. So the reason why I wanted to highlight that research case is because with shame also not only impacts our self-esteem, because we saw that, it impacts our confidence to move forward in things that God wants us to do. But now we're experiencing depression, anxiety, and maybe a few other things that are linked to being shame prone. So someone like me who grew up, and I'm always thinking of like excellence and perfectionism, and those things can then or have taken over my mindset in a way. And it's crazy because the very thing that I teach about, the very thing that I'm excited about, I am excited about the brain, I'm excited about the mind, but that was the area that the enemy tried to attack with shame. Well, how are you going to do this if you did XYZ? How are you going to talk to people about God because you've done whatever? That is what the enemy tried to plant inside my head. And I started to believe him. And there are times, listen, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm fully healed from this or that I fully overcome the burdens of shame. However, this is a step, and I'm living, like I said, I'm living out loud, so that way you could see that this is a journey, because we cannot be stuck by those shackles anymore, because God has plans for us. He has we have dominion, we have authority, and there are certain things that the enemy knows about you, and there are certain things the enemy knows about me, and I'm not even going to give him that much credit, but just know that there are tactics that we just need to be aware of, so that we can combat this effectively. So here's what we're going to do. We're gonna work to free ourselves from the societal norms that plague us, including those of religiosity, culturalism, and the overall expectations of others. Now, I can't promise you that this is gonna happen overnight, but what I can do is give you hope that there are tools that you could use in order to free yourself from being shame prone. Here in this video, we are going to discuss 10 strategies to free ourselves from shame. Ready? Drum roll, please. All right, so here are the 10. Number 1, if you haven't gotten my book, this is a shameless plug. There's no shame in my game, because I know that my book has helped. No shame. And I know from story after story that people are saying to me how much it has changed their mindset, how much it has changed their life, because what we're doing in core, 3 steps to reshape your mind for a better future, there are 3 steps in that book: authenticity, awareness, and the application of knowledge. And I would not be aware of how I was shackled by shame if I had not done those steps in my book. So anytime that I'm realizing that there's something going on, a pattern that I mentioned in my previous videos, apply those strategies, and then I'm able to highlight or identify what it is that's burdening me at that moment, and how I can then grow, whether it's through a therapist, because this is a disclaimer, I'm not a therapist, but I am a mindset coach. What therapists do is they help you unpack the past, and what mindset coaches do is that they help you propel into the future. Not to make this about therapy fully, it is important that while you're unpacking shame and you're unpacking that the burden of that shackle in your head, that you're also taking the steps necessary to get the help that you need. Step number 2, we are going to give yourself what you wish you had as a child. So think of a time when you were your happiest and your most creative. What I like for you to do is give yourself what you wish you had at that time. So for me, I always wish that I had a big sister or a mentor of some sort. So what I wrote down is like, okay, who did I need at that particular moment as a child, and what would that person be doing to help me become a better adult? Now, again, we're never going to be perfect. This is not about perfectionism, but what did you wish you had as a child that you didn't get? Maybe it was that parent. Maybe it was that love from a family member. Who knows? Write that down, and now I want you to give yourself that. Give yourself that applause. If you were looking for encouragement, give yourself that hug. If you were looking for a hug, give yourself that pampering. If you needed that pampering, whatever it is that you needed as a child, I want you to take the time to do step 2, is to give yourself what you always needed. Number 3, we talked about this in step number 1 when we talked about core and getting a therapist, but it's to identify your triggers. Number 3 is all about identifying your triggers. Well, this was really hard for me, and it still is, because I have been peeling back layers, and some of my, while I'm pulling back those layers, there are coping mechanisms that I created. There are defense mechanisms that I created, but I had to identify what those were. In order to do that, I had to identify my triggers. Number 4 is self-compassion. When you are feeling bad about yourself, it's hard to be compassionate, right? So I want you to treat yourself with the same kindness of love that you would give someone else. And if you're not a loving person, now is your time to be loving. Give yourself that self-compassion. Give yourself that level of grace. Number 5, listen to and correct your negative self-talk. So I do a little bit of this work inside of my book as well, which is why I recommended it, is because you want to identify that negative self-talk, that negative voice that's in your head, and then tell yourself something different. Start by making a list of things that you usually tell yourself in certain situations. So for example, what do you tell yourself when you see your reflection?
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
That's a good place to start. So looking in the mirror, what are you saying to yourself? When you make a mistake, what are you saying to yourself when you make a mistake? Are you beating yourself up? Are you giving yourself grace or that self-compassion? What about when you get called out for something at work? Like say if you made a mistake at work or you need room and opportunity for growth. What are you saying to yourself at those moments? If it's bad, now's your time to change it. What about when someone else insults you?
How insulting!
Are you internalizing that insult? Are you believing what they say? I talk about this in my book as well too. There are things that were planted on me or in me as a child, and it was like, I started believing the thoughts of certain people who said things to me, and that is what I want you to do. Identify that voice. What about when you're giving into temptations or falling back to old habits? So I loved this one specifically. The reason why I decided to bring this up is because we're talking about shackled by shame right now, and any one of us are bound to do something that's shameful again. We're bound to do it. Like, we're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. Something's probably going to come up from our past. Things are going to happen. Like, identifying when you're giving into temptations to go backwards and identifying when you're falling back into old habits is very crucial, because then you're repeating the cycle all over again and you didn't really heal the root, the core of what we're talking about here. So give yourself a moment to write this down so you can identify that negative self-talk. Number 6 is give yourself permission to accept that you feel shame when you feel it. Don't layer on more pain by kicking yourself for your feelings. So, as I mentioned, this is not a one pill fix all. This is not a one video fix all. We just want to get better. 7, choose to surround yourself with supportive, understanding, and loving people instead. Your environment, your people matter, especially when you are building yourself back up from shame that caused maybe low self-esteem, from shame that caused you to feel bad about yourself and saying, I'm a bad person. Your environment at this moment matters. Number 8, release tension from your body. So the good way to do this is by stretching, exercise, go for a walk, do some deep breath work, release tension in your body, lower your shoulders, unclench your jaw, do mouth exercises to unclench that jaw, massage your neck, like just release yourself. Take a hot shower or a hot bath and just release that tension from your body. Number 9, allow yourself to be vulnerable and risk the outcome. When you are shame prone, you tend to be risk adverse out of fear of losing the little control you have. Y'all, talking about some of the things I shared was risky. And even if it blows up in my face later on, because people tend to do that. There are a lot of people who want to put you on a pedestal. If you're not meeting their expectations, still applaud yourself, because I still applaud myself for having the courage to be vulnerable. It was no easy feat to get on here and talk to you about shame. It was no easy feat to talk to you about some of the demons that I battle with or still battle with. There we go. Number 10, forgiveness. You are the gate guard holding the key to your own internal prison. Forgiving yourself and others is a form of grace, humility, to know, hey, I'm flawed and that's okay. Remember that you can make bad decisions and that's okay. You can make mistakes and that is okay. Don't let the world condemn you to hell when you're trying to experience heaven by freeing yourself from shame. That was a bar. I said 10, but I gave you a bonus. But here we go with number 11. Write this down too. Accept kindness, love and kindness, learning how to trust again. Because with that, you'll experience a sense of psychological safety. If you're not allowing yourself to live and accept kindness, to be in love and be in kindness, and learning to trust yourself and others again, then you are in bondage and without you even realizing it. And I know that takes a level of having psychological safety with some people, but first that starts with yourself. So having that psychological safety with yourself, you are then able to do that with other people. So those are my 10 strategies for you to release yourself from shame. Remember what Romans 8:1 says. There's no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. Sometimes you will feel shame. Shame is inevitable. That's a part of human nature. But it's about what you nurture, right? You're going to think of the opinions of other people. People are going to say things, y'all, like, people are peopling. We even do it to people. But all that truly matters is what God says in the opinion of God, right? Earlier in this video, we mentioned a psychologist who talked about how shame could impact your self-esteem, could then lead to anxiety, depression. And what I realized is that your self-esteem is also linked to your confidence. Although those are two very separate things, I am also very passionate about confidence in this season. So once we free ourselves from being shackled by shame, you need to then muster up that confidence to push forward in anything in your professional life, your business life. And I'm the coach to help you do that. So if you are interested in working with me, if you are interested in unleashing the confidence within, I will put a link below this video that's linked to my course. The course is called Confidence Unleashed. And y'all, game changing. Game changing. I will see you on the inside, and I will see you in my next video. You are now locked in to Candace to the Core, plugged in. Bye. Freedom, freedom, freedom.